Hello, BookTube. Thought I'd continue the tradition with the hats. I've seen quite a few booktubers doing that, and that's fun. And seen some really good ones. So that's awesome. I'm hoping in this video my wife can edit in some of our drive around the back roads today. Back roads being 90% of the kind of roads we have around here, but this time of year is fun. So hopefully we'll be able to incorporate that. And while we were out, I stopped in an little antique shop in Windsor, Vermont. Found one book. Found some beautiful old barrister bookcases that I'd really love to get, but they were a bit pricey. And then we went up to Queechee. You've seen me there with Steve Donahue in the past, and I found a couple books. So I'm very excited to show you. So this is sort of a country roads and a book haul. So the first was originally part of a set. This is the writings of Washington Irving, reviews and miscellanies. Very nice. Hopefully you can see that. So this would have been part of a larger set. I obviously would prefer to have the set. So here's, he was scrambling up a tree when I shot him through the breast. So I guess it's a bear. So that would have been, there's on this waxy paper here, the onion skin, is what's the story going on. If I can get this onion skin. You want to make sure you preserve those in these because they do have the caption for the image. So this is the writings of Washington Irving, G.P. Putnam's and Son, New York and London. And then there's a whole list of illustrators, and it's the new Sunnyside edition. And it's Knickerbocker Press. I'm trying to make sure I've got every page here. New York and London. And then, I thought I'd missed a page. It's a little hard to turn them, but in this case it matters. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time. Oh, here it is. So this is the Book Lovers New Sunnyside edition. This edition of the complete works of Washington Irving is limited to 600 signed and numbered set, of which this is number 132. It must have been a beautiful set when it was complete. It's illustrated throughout. I've looked at a few. So again, with this onion skin, the caption on this was Brook at Sunnyside. Let me just grab a few more at random. I have, like I said, so here's under Stories and Legends. See if they've got an image here that might be fun to look at. A couple of the pages are not, well, you can tell, weren't cut. That one looks partially cut, but it may have come that way. Oh, let me see here. Yeah, here we go. This is New York from Jersey City, 1830. It probably looks a little different now, I would think. So, again, it was marked $9. Fella gave it to me for $5. So, in a case like this, you'd like to have the whole set, which would cost quite a bit, I would think. But as a single volume, I'm a big Washington Irving fan. So there's that. Then the next thing I got, so that was at the antique shop. This was up at Queechee. Got this thing. Science fiction writers. Big old thing. Critical studies of the major authors from the early 19th century to the present day. And the present day in this case would be 1982. Normally these are, you see them with library markings because there are reference books in libraries a lot of times. This has nothing like that. This is Charles Scribner's and Son, New York. E.F. Blyler, editor. And it's exactly what it sounds like. So it starts with Mary Shelley, and interesting enough, that article is by Brian W. Aldiss. He, in his 1,000-Year Spree, his story of the history of science fiction, starts science fiction with Mary Shelley. So then you have Edgar Allan Poe, H. Rider Haggard, who I am ashamed to say most of my life I've had Haggard books in my collection. I have none. H.G. Wells, of course, again by Aldiss. M.P. Shield, Garrett Serviss, Arthur Conan Doyle. So the first part, that's called early science fiction. Primitive science fiction, the American Dime novel and pulp magazines. And one of those is Edgar Rice Burroughs. Mainstream Georgian authors would be John Taine, Olaf Stapleton, Aldous Huxley. I'm not giving all the names. Part 4 is American science fiction, the formative period. Maury Leinster, who I've read. Let's see if there's anybody else I've read. E.E. Smith, H.P. Lovecraft by Colin Wilson. E.E. Smith is by John Clute, who did the famous Encyclopedia of Science Fiction, which I need to get. I don't have that, do I? No, I don't have that. Clark Ashton Smith and Stanley Weinbaum are both by Brian M. Stableford. You have part on John W. Campbell, and then C.L. Moore and Henry Kuttner. So we're starting to get names that at least someone of my generation knows. The Circumbellum period. Ray Bradbury, A.L. Sprague de Camp, Robert Heinlein, Eric Frank Russell, Theodore Sturgeon, A.E. Van Gogh, John Wyndham, Jack Williamson, George Orwell, C.S. Lewis. That's the first time I've read everybody on the list. So the more modern I guess we're getting, the more likely that is. Then under what they're calling the moderns, Brian W. Aldiss, Poul Anderson, Isaac Asimov, J.G. Ballard, Alfred Bester, James Blish, who a lot of people know did the popularizations of the Star Trek episodes and volumes, John Brunner, Algis Budrys, Arthur C. Clarke, one of my favorites, Hal Clement, who was really hard science fiction, Samuel R. Delany, who should be in the Library of America, I think, Philip K. Dick, who is and shouldn't be, Gordon R. Dixon. Steve turned me on to the Chilled Cycle, the Dorsey books, and I'm really enjoying those. Thomas M. Dish, Harlan Ellison. So Todd the librarian ought to be pleased there, and Harlan Ellison was amazing. Philip Jose Farmer, Frank Herbert. I know a lot of folks are doing DuneTube. Fred Hoyle, I don't know if he's read much anymore. Damon Knight, and that article is by Gardner Dozois, who we just lost a year or two ago. He did that big year's best sci-fi anthology every year. C.M. Kornbluth, Ursula K. Le Guin, who is in Library of America, a lot of her stuff, and it deserves to be. It's wonderful. Fritz Leiber, I believe Paperback Junkies, reading through the Fawford and Gray Mouser stories right now. Richard Matheson, Judith Merrill, who did a famous anthology years, I'd love to find a copy again, called England Swings SF. So it was pretty cool. Walter M. Miller, Michael Moorcock, so if you like Elric and a lot of other stuff. Larry Niven of Ringworld fame, Chad Oliver, Frederick Pohl, Joanna Russ, Margaret St. Clair, Robert Sheckley, Robert Silverberg, who I love his stuff. Clifford D. Simak, Cordwainer Smith, one of Steve Donahue's favorites. William Tenn, James Triptree Jr., who was amazing. Jack Vance, Kurt Vonnegut, and Roger Zelazny. And then they do something that looks a little odd to me, but maybe at the time it made sense. They have continental science fiction. And for that, they have Jules Verne, Karl Čapek, and Stanislaw Lem. And I've read Stanislaw Lem. I've read quite a few of those Buddy Reads. I think I did one that was Buddy Reed. Maybe it was Ernest Lee Eston, I think. So I like Stanislaw Lem. But, so these are like, here's C.S. Lewis. This is a big old volume. James Blish. I wonder what they have at the end of the volume. So they have, oh yeah, so you have a critical and biographical studies and a bibliography of the author's works. So I figure up over here in my sci-fi books, this is a good reference. Like I say, it's not next library, so that's sort of nice. And I need to wet my whistle real quick here. But then, the find of the day. Another big volume. Edgar Rice Burroughs, The Man Who Created Tarzan by Erwin Porges. So look at me and you get a pretty good idea how big this volume is. No, I'd get a little glare there. And there's the author. So this is Brigham Young University Press, Provo, Utah. Has an introduction by Ray Bradbury, and Hulbert Burroughs is the pictorial editor. Look at this. This is the first edition of 1975. My 7-year-old's down yelling at his video game. It's a family trait. I don't play video games, but I even yell at video games. So you have part 1, the early years, part 2, the long journey to adulthood, part 3, from medievalism to the jungle, so it's the Outlaw of Torn, Tarzan of the Apes. Part 4, writing as a professional, prolific period in the California sojourn. From stories to the movies, The Writer at Home, Film Frustration. Part 6 is travels in World War I. Auto-Gypsian and Writing Patriot. Part 7 is a California setting. Tarzana, which of course is named the town or city, I guess now, in California is named after his famous character. Then Troubled Times, Building Variety and Change, From California to Hawaii, and Home and Peace and Serenity. So it also has, let me get that, I don't want this dust jacket to slip. I don't want to damage this while I'm showing you. That would be horrible. So you have his autobiographical sketch, a list of his complete works, Reminiscence by Hulbert Burroughs, and Of Beans and Rice by Forrest J. Ackerman. Forrest Ackerman was one of the greatest science fiction collectors, convention goer, and creator. Just a constant present. Editor. He was like the great sci-fi fan. So let me see if I get some images. This thing is just loaded with stuff. I get to some of the stuff that maybe would be a little more interesting to folks. That was Tarzan. Let's see what we got here. So this is going to be great fun for me. I saw it. I was thrilled. We have quite a few booktubers who are big fans of Edgar Rice Burroughs. Like I said, Paperback Junkie's done a ton of stuff. So here's a manuscript notebook page for Princess of Mars. So a lot of you will know that as the John Carter of Mars series, stories. Let me see, I'd like to get some. So here's income from stories. Under the Moon of Mars, Outlaws of Torn, Tarzan of the Apes, God of Mars, Return of Tarzan, da-da-da-da-da. You can see it. Let me see here, we get anything else. All Story Weekly. Here is Edgar Rice Burroughs as a captain of the Illinois Reserve Militia in Oak Park, Illinois. Frontispiece for Princess of Mars, 1917. Here he is out west. Let's see if we can find something with some book covers. Tarzan, Lord of the Jungle, cover, 1928. Here's Joan Burroughs and Jim Pierce on set during the filming of Tarzan and the Golden Lion. How do you like that outfit? Yep. The Blue Book magazine, January 1930. Tarzan at the Earth's core. You know, I could just do this all day and drive you all crazy, but here he is with a copy, Edgar Rice Burroughs with a copy of Tarzan and the Lion Man. How'd you like to have that copy right now? Especially if he was kind enough to sign it. There's Edgar Rice Burroughs and his son John standing next to a painting of a dust jacket for one of his works. There's another. Oh, these are great, aren't they? This is about the films. Here's Amazing Stories. John Carter and the Giant of Mars. Venus, Mars, Pellucidor series, and other works. So hopefully they got more covers here, because I just love looking at the old covers. Oh yeah, here, look at this. So if this is your idea of fun, it is mine. I'm going to treasure this forever. I'm sure that there'll be many, many, many hours spent going over this, and tons of notes in the back, so it's really documented. And then again, page after page of his published works. So yeah, what a day, huh? So I admit I paid a little more on this than probably I should have. I spent $30 on this. 12 on this, and was marked at 9, spent 5 on that, so a little more than I usually spend on a run. But the Edgar Rice Burroughs, the science fiction reference, little Washington Irving, nice drive in the country. Hopefully you'll get to see some of that video, and I thank you, BookTube.